Bowling with the Faf?
Bowling with the Faf?
Yes,
Got it.
Hello.
This lane, I think.
I would like to challenge Matt Rozak.
Scotty Bull.
Jason Belmonte.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Bowling with the Faf, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. This is kind of a strange way of doing this, and I hope you'll bear with me. I'm going to apologize in advance. Typically, I'll do this show on a hardwired connection on my laptop computer, and for some reason, in our testing before we went live tonight, the phone works better. So I'm not sure if this will go completely smooth, but like I said, bear with us. There is certainly one of those things where there's a prize at the end of the maze because we've got a fantastic guest tonight. So pray with me. Cross your fingers, cross your toes, cross everything you have that everything works out okay. I'll do the same and we will get through this together. I got a few things to talk about before we bring her on, though. We do have new champions in the PBA and the PWBA, Danielle McEwen and Anthony Simonson, taking the Lucy doubles in Houston after a massive comeback this past Sunday. They were more than 250 pins off the lead, and in 30th place after Saturday, came all the way back and ended up winning by 118. So this is McEwen's 8th PWBA tour, her first of the season. For Simonson, he has 13 PBA tour titles and 3 this season alone. So congratulations to both of them. In the PWBA side of things, this is an interesting time of year because we've got the last 3 events of the season coming up in Waterloo next week. The PWBA Championship Week consists of 3 events: the Waterloo Open, the Pepsi Open, and then the PWBA Tour Championship. The finals of that Tour Championship are on CBS Sports Network. You can see it starting at 6 p.m. Wisconsin time on August 15th. Jordan Richard has the lead right now in the Player of the Year race. She's got more than 79,000 points. Lindsay Boomershine, who is the earnings leader right now, is in second with almost 66,000. So we also have a new leader at the Peterson Classic. Steve Bone went down from Minnesota to Bolero Wauwatosa, shot 1656 for 8 games. That's 17 pins better than episode 39 guest Will Welch, who was the previous leader. Bone is from Norwood, Minnesota. Started out with 892 for... Oh, and let's try this. There we go. See, I'm hoping things go smoothly. That was a little rocky, but we're back with it now. Hopefully you can still hear me. He went 892 for his first 4, kind of went on from there. He told me in a message exchange that waiting now for this thing to end is the toughest part. And he also found that in game 7, they shut his lane off while his ball was going down the lane. And it sat there for like that for 10 minutes. Then there's another 5 minutes or so before he actually got his ball back in that game. That tournament runs now for a few more weekends, but we'll see who holds on and wins the Peterson Classic. Always an exciting tournament, a different kind of tournament for those of you who know it. Well, Bowling with the Faf is brought to you by Chip Magnet Salsa. Chip Magnet is a family business in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, distributing salsa, relish, and a whole lot more to stores in 38 states and Canada. If you want it, stay online. Go to chipmagnetsalsa.com. When you enter the promo code BWTF2023 at checkout, you get 20% off your purchase of $30 or more. Limit 1 order per email address. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. And a big thank you, as always, to Chip Magnet for supporting bowling, and specifically Bowling with the Faf. Well, our guest tonight is one of the most decorated PWBA superstars in history, quite literally. She's won 32 times on tour, and it is my pleasure to bring on the show the great Lisa Wagner. She is coming to us from the state of Georgia tonight. And Lisa, it is such a pleasure to have you on. I think you're on.
I am.
Can you hear me?
I can
this
hear
went
you.
black. You can hear me. Okay. What? Oh, went black again. Hopefully we'll get through this. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We good? Oh, I don't think you can hear me.
Okay, you good?
Yep, I'm good.
I can hear you. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Let's take it away. The first thing I was going to ask you was kind of in light of what's going on in the PWBA tour. You've got Jordan Richard having a huge season. How closely do you follow that stuff?
Well, I do follow it. I think that they are absolutely amazing. The talent, just phenomenal. So good.
Yeah. Is it,
It
I
is.
guess, do you see, kind of a change in styles that kind of makes it that way? Is it people just having to adapt to different conditions and different equipment?
It is. They are so much more in tune with, like, you know, knowing their equipment, knowledge, everything is key these days. As far as what ball selection, everything that you're going to do, they're very in tune with that, and they're real motivated too. I mean, I see that I can tell that they work out. They have good physical regimens, and practice a lot. They have good mental games, and I'm really excited about the upcoming for women's bowling.
Yeah. Is there any way that you see Jordan Richard not winning Player of the Year at this point?
Well, it's August. Got some time left.
Yep.
Got some time left.
Sure. Yep. Anything can happen, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We've got a couple folks tuning in. Flush in the Pocket podcast. Derek Michaud says it's nice to meet you. And hello to me. Hey, Derek. Thank you so much for joining us. And BSJ. There I go. Hold on. Am I back? I think I'm back.
You're back.
Okay. He wants to know who are some of your favorites on the current PWBA tour.
Oh, goodness. One of my favorites has always been Shannon O'Keefe. I mean, I know her as Shannon O'Keefe. I remember her going, when she started out, she was always very intense in her physical, working on her legs. I don't know if you've ever seen her physical stature and everything. It's just so strong. And never gave up. She had some times where it was kind of she'd have some down moments and here and there, but so good. And I've really watched that.
Yeah, she's an incredible player. Is certainly still one of the best on the planet, and it'll be exciting to see how she does in Waterloo coming up. Let's kind of take it back to the beginning as far as your bowling story. You spent lots of your early years in Florida. Are you a native Floridian?
No, I was actually born in Southern Illinois. Very
okay.
Small town, about 90 miles outside of St. Louis. And my parents moved to Florida when I was 2. So basically grew up in Florida.
Yeah. Okay. Your parents were into bowling, I'm guessing, long before you were, but they had an early influence on you, didn't they?
They did, yes. They bowled league 2 and 3 times a week, and as I got a little bit older, all the way to 5 and 6 years old, I knew where they were going. So,
okay.
I once in a while they would take me with them if they had an early night, an early league session.
Okay.
And then they, as I got a little bit older, I went with them, and then after league they would go into the coffee shop, have a piece of pie and a coffee or something, and I went out and bowled. So they said by the time, I was 12 or 13, they came out and said, wow, she kind of knows how to bowl.
Yeah.
So, but, the Dykey family in Florida at Little Cortez Lanes, they would just let me go out and bowl. Well, the league bowlers, they just all went and sit and talked, and then I just threw games. It was fun.
Now, forgive my ignorance, are you closer to Tampa or to the northern part of the state?
Closer to Tampa. Yeah, Cortez Lanes is in Braden. It was in Bradenton, Florida. It's now a Walgreens, actually. Of course, but it's about a little over an hour south of Tampa.
Okay. All right. So you're getting going there. And in those early years, I'm assuming you're in some kind of junior program.
Yes, I actually started juniors when I was 6.
Okay.
Back then, you weren't really supposed to start until you were 8. But my parents said, they were coaches, junior bowling coaches. And they said, rather than me go run around and get in trouble or something, they just went ahead and put me in the program. So I started league already when I was 6 years old.
Wow. Is there a point there early on that you still have memories of? I mean, I started when I was 7, and I just have the faintest memories of that house that I was at. How about you?
I do. Absolutely, I do. Yes, I do. It's a small 24-lane house that it was. But one of the things that I certainly remember was that it taught me how to play the gutter. Because
Oh, we're good. It taught you how to play the
I
gutter.
think we're back.
Yep.
It taught me how to play the gutter.
Yep.
Yeah, and boards 1 and 2 were always dry there, and it taught me early not to be afraid. I could move my feet, way right, being a right-hander, and was not afraid. And it did help in a lot of tournaments where I bowled that people are afraid to play way out, even when that might be the best shot that you might have. And I learned how to play out there, but I also learned I went through so many changes with a game. Obviously, when you start at 6 years old, you're gonna have a lot of changes, So I had a lot of changes in my game and had some coaches here and there, and I think probably this it'll kind of sound probably a lot different than a lot of your guests, but I went from 5th to 12th grade. I went to a Christian school that associated, with a Baptist church and everything. And we had a thing called quiz team, and we would go, and every week we would have a quiz, and the moderator would have to say, let's say Matthew chapter 6 verse 12, and we were expected to know that. So we had 3 chapters a month, and they gave me 2 chapters that I would have to memorize. Were perfect. And many times I was a little bit of a procrastinator and I put it off. So I had a 9 a.m. and a 1 p.m. Junior bowling league, and I would memorize 2 chapters of the Bible during that 9 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Wow.
I had a good memory back then. So a lot of times that's what I did during my junior league. I would memorize those, and then I would have quiz team the following day.
Okay. Wow.
That's a lot of times what I remember of those. I would have to, kind of buckle down and memorize.
Sure.
Bowling wise, wouldn't trade it for anything. Junior program taught me so much. We had my parents and everybody else, all of the coaches taught us from the very beginning, out, down, back, release. And they taught us a proper 4-step delivery. They taught us rules, regulations, courtesy, things like that you just can't trade.
Sure. Okay, so Derek's going a little ahead here, but I want to get his question in. When you won your 32nd title at Holiday Bowl in 1999, he knows these shows, let me tell you. You played off that you didn't make the show. Was that planned or was that your idea? I'm a little confused on exactly what he's talking about. Maybe you know?
My 32nd?
Your 32nd. So that would have been the last one.
Right. Let's see.
So I'm guessing around 2000 or so?
Yeah. You know what? Forgive me, but
Yep.
I don't. A lot of it, I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to. There are some highlights in there, but when bowling to me was, I did it because of competition.
Sure.
Year-wise, not so sure on some of them.
Yep.
I have, it was, I worked and worked and worked hard at it. And it was every week I would go out.
Oh, there we go. Still there?
Yep, still here.
Yep, okay, that's okay.
Yep. I would go out and, get through the first part of the week, and then the competition got more intense.
Sure.
Okay. And that's what I loved. As far as the 32nd, to me, I would say, that was the same as any.
Yeah.
They were all, to me, they were all important. To me, it was one week to the next. Do your best.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me about the time that Tommy Evans came into your life.
Those years back at Little Cortez Lanes.
Yeah.
When I was a little short girl, throwing some games out there while my parents were, having some pie and coffee. He was the head mechanic, and I would bug him, and he would go tell me to take a long walk off a short pier. And of course, at 7 years old, I didn't understand that, but I do now. And it's funny, but he became my friend at a very, very early age. He moved away. He moved to the east coast of Florida for a little while, but then he came back to Sarasota area when I was in my teens, and I had him drill some equipment for me. He started working with my game, and he kind of is the start of my career, because he said, "Hey, there's a women's pro tournament coming up in Clearwater. You should bowl." And I was only 18, and very naive 18, and I said, "I can't do that." And he said, "Well, sure you can." So I did.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough. I finished second. I lost to Betty Morris by a lot.
Okay.
But it was a very good experience, and that's kind of what started the whole thing.
Yeah. Is that the experience that told you, hey, maybe there's something in this, for me on tour?
It was. It absolutely was. The center that we bowled at there, where we bowled, they had a silicone-based oil, and most people have not ever had to experience that. But it's very hard to hang on to equipment with a silicone-based oil. I was fortunate that I could. So, not saying, that, I think Tommy, putting my game at a very technical level, it was repetition based. And simplicity and having a swing and accuracy, things like that. That helped me the most there. And the one thing that helped was I could hang on to equipment. A lot of people couldn't because it was silicone based oil. So, but that definitely catapulted everything that went on after that.
Sure. BSJ83 wants to know, who was your toughest competitor on the Ladies Professional Bowlers Tour? Was it Alita Sill or someone else?
Oh, goodness. Toughest. Well, there were so many.
Yeah.
Len asked me this one thing. He did ask me, who did you never win against or beat or whatever? And I told him, I said, Cindy Coburn Carroll. I rarely beat her. TV.
Okay, we back?
And we're back. Yep, we're back.
I think we're going to keep doing that every 7 minutes or so.
Yeah, exactly. That's okay. Cindy Coburn Carroll, I rarely won against. TV, things like that. Alita, I very early on in our careers, I roomed with Alita on tour. And, we were trading back and forth at that point with, we were fortunate enough to be able to trade back and forth winning titles. And I'm going to tell you what, we just had the best time on tour. It was a time that I'm sure, I would never trade. Hopefully she would never trade. We had a very, very good time. A lot of memories, good memories, a lot of sad memories because, just things that happened or whatever. I remember, Alita, she won a Mustang in Dallas. And in Texas, I don't know if it's Dallas, Texas. She won a Mustang. She threw the first 300. She won a Mustang. And it was a 5-speed. And she looked at me and said, I don't know how to drive a 5-speed. So we had to get her home somehow, right? So,
right.
So I went out. Well, I taught her how to drive 5-speed.
Okay.
Things. Just fun things like that were just a lot of good memories. And but I think Cindy Coburn Carroll.
Yeah.
Couldn't beat her.
Yeah, but you had success pretty quickly on tour, but it didn't amount to championships for a few years, right? You've got the benefit of hindsight now to kind of reflect back on how things, changed, and they changed pretty dramatically. But what did it take for you to start winning?
I did have a lot of seconds before I won. But any type of athlete that goes through the years and that has any success at all has to learn how to win. And I had to learn how to win. Everything came very early, like with first tournament, finishing second. It was pretty scary. And, and then you get, I joined the tour, and then I go out, and then it's kind of the real world, and then I had to kind of bring it all in and calm down, and then a lot more seconds, a lot more. But I think you got to learn how to win. That first win in Rockford, I qualified 6. We took 6 at that point instead of 5, and had to go all the way through. And that was just one of those days when everything kind of fell in line. opponents. I caught everything at the right time. You know, that kind of, you know, started it. And then it was, hey, I can win, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, for sure.
but I mean, you know, the whole, people might think that it was all very easy and everything for me, but it wasn't. I mean, I'm not very flexible or anything. Muscles get very, very tight.
Oh. Still there? We back?
There's a 7-minute thing.
Yep. You said physically not very flexible, muscles get, and then you faded out there. Oh, can you hear me? Oh,
No audio.
you still there? Can you hear me?
No audio.
No audio. Okay. Yeah, not sure why. Maybe, yeah. Maybe you want to, I don't know if you can hear me, maybe log out and back on, and we can take it from there. Oh boy. Maybe I can type it to you. Hang on a second here. Try logging out and back on. And let's see if that works. Maybe if you log out and back on, and then we can see if the audio works again. We'll try and get Lisa back here. But some interesting stuff that she's talked about so far early on in her career and kind of growing up through juniors. I'm going to hope that we can get her back there. I believe this is a picture of that tournament that she was talking about in Rockford. It looks like the Midwest Classic at Don Carter Lanes. So hopefully I'm on the right track there. But yeah, if she gets back on, we can continue the conversation. In the meantime, this would be a good time to remind you about the Coach K Scholarship. Coach K, of course, Steve Klemkin, who has been on our show before, does a scholarship for Wichita students. You can find out more information at bit.ly/Coach K Scholarship, and he can tell you about that. If you notice, there's a pin behind me here, and that's the pictures that I was showing you there. You could see that pin. It's on the right side there. It's got some autographs from Kyle Troop, Jason Belmonte, and Jesper Svensson. They are that type of thing is the type of thing that Steve will raffle off now and then, and go with it that way. Hopefully we can get Lisa back here. Interesting stuff, of course. But yeah, once we get back to her, we can continue on with that conversation, and hopefully she can find out from Jim that he's saying hello here. Looks like she's just about back here. We'll see if that works out. Hopefully it does. Oh. It takes a little while. Oh, you can hear me. Okay, and we can hear you.
I can hear you.
Can't see you yet, but we can hear you.
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we can go at it like this until we get the picture back.
There you go.
Yeah, Jim says hello, Lisa. I'm guessing Jim is somebody you know.
I know a lot of gyms.
You know a lot of gyms. Okay.
Well, I know a lot of gyms in bowling.
A lot of gyms in bowling. Okay.
Yeah,
and Brent said, yeah, that was the pick, her first win. I don't know if you caught that or if you were getting back on, but I put up this picture to show the first time you were in the winner's circle there. So I'm trying to think, where was I? We were just talking about how, you were kind of building up to that first win, and then the wins started coming, and they didn't stop. What was that like to kind of make that ascent? Oh, there we go. Into a deal where you were winning really multiple times most of these years.
Well, I lost you there just a tiny bit in the beginning, or in the middle of
Okay.
that. Sorry, but yeah, from that win to the following ones. I think I was saying too. I had to work a lot, very hard at bowling. I mean, there were so many nights that I would be in the center where the tournament was, that I would have to go practice just to stay loose.
Okay.
It might have been on a Friday night, and there were uh, uh, kids, people everywhere, but I had to go and I had to throw some. Um, I'm not a real uh, limber person at all, so I always had to work at it and stretch and things, and had to keep practicing, because what I had on my uh, side was accuracy, and I
Yep.
could repeat shots, but it was strictly through repetition and practice. So I had to work a lot at it. And then, like I said, you got to learn how to win. And once you kind of get into that groove, um, it you can make time go a little bit slower. I mean, that's one thing I always told people that were coming up. They said, what do you do on like your first telecast or whatever? I said, that first telecast that you do, your first finals, it's going to go by very quickly. You got to slow it down.
Yeah.
My first one was 5 minutes. I thought I was done, and then I learned how to bowl the first 8 frames, making shots, just doing my best, and then the ninth and 10th, you bowl your opponent.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of learned to do.
Sure. I was asking Paul Wolf about you. I'm not sure if you know Paul. He's the head coach of Avila University in Kansas. And he told me that you were more dominant than anyone during the mid to late 80s. He said if you were in the field, there were only 4 spots left for the show. Did you see it that way?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually, I mean, that's how I had to look at it. Yeah, because anybody that anybody that has a goal, I had a goal in the 80s, and my goal was bowler of the decade. And that came from Betty Morris, because she was bowler of the decade the previous. And, she had mentioned something about that to me even before. And I said, well, after 80, after 83, I said, I kind of want to go for that, So it kind of became a little mindset that, yeah, I want to be one of those 5.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
You mentioned the accuracy piece, and when I messaged with Jeff Riggles, he said the same thing. He said that was your great strength. He said when you found something you liked, watch out. He said the lanes didn't change nearly as much back in your day, and you could just lock in and go. Tell me about that. I mean, was it a deal where you felt like, hey, if I find my line, that's it? Or were there little minuscule changes that you had to look for?
We definitely did have some changes, even though equipment was different, which definitely affected lane conditions. Because all of the equipment these days will affect the oil and the pattern that's on the lane. But there definitely were changes, but we didn't have that many balls to go to. We didn't have that much equipment.
Yep. Still here.
There
Still
we go.
going.
We didn't have
There you go.
we didn't have that much equipment choice. So
Okay.
so we had what we had, and you made do with it. But I focused in on what I had to do, which was where I had to go, where I had to look, and how I had to get it there to hit the pocket, basically. Because leave what you can make.
Yeah.
When you get in trouble, when you go to a different pair or whatever, if it's very different, leave what you can make until you can figure it out.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So another gentleman I talked to through an email exchange was Randy Peterson.
Oh,
He
my
mentioned
goodness.
a time when he had the honor and privilege to bowl with you. He said he bowled a doubles event in Japan with you way back when. He said you ran away with it until you got sabotaged in the finals. Long story. Is that something you remember?
Oh, Randy. I got sabotaged in the finals. Oh my goodness. I love him. He's so funny. And you know what? Oh, most famous, the best color commentator ever.
Yeah.
Absolutely great. In Japan, I was there 8 times. We If it was a sabotage, I'm gonna say it was probably Japan giving us too many Mai Tais. Because they love to do that.
Okay.
And I have some stories about you, Randy, too.
Oh, there you go. He also mentions why she ever chose Kent Wagner over me, who knows? But he says that's a joke.
Oh my god. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, Randy. Oh my goodness. I saw Randy many, many years ago. He had a pet pig, and that was one of my best memories because I'm an absolutely a huge animal lover. He had a pet pig for a while, and one of the smartest animals in the whole world, and I just enjoyed that so much.
Yeah, no, he's great. Had the chance to interview him at the World Series of Bowling. That's on the channel if anyone's interested in that. Tommy, going back to Tommy Evans, had success on the PBA 50 tour, and that kind of overlapped with the time that you were winning too. Do you remember what it was like for you when he won his first on the PBA 50 or kept winning? I mean, he ended up with 5 championships.
He did. I wasn't working with him too much at that time. But I had worked with him so many years previous to that, and once in a while, when my game felt like it was, kind of falling apart, then I would reach out to him, and we would have, some on the lane workouts and everything. But I was so happy for him. Tommy is let's say he's a very competitive person. I see him actually. Hopefully, we'll see him this weekend because where I'm going is close by, and we talk about old times and things like that, and it's just very memorable. But I was wishing him nothing but the best. He gave me so many good years of training and how to get my game where it needed to be. There was another person too that he worked with. It was Ted Thompson. And
there we go.
And yep, there we go. And Ted Thompson and I bowled. We bowled junior leagues together, and Tommy worked a little bit with him too. And it's kind of so nice to see everybody stay in the bowling community.
Yeah.
So I have talked to Ted here and there too. So back from, this is so many years ago. It's back when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, just coming up. So good to stay in there.
Yeah. Derek, I think, has the line of the night now. On a scale of 1 to 10, Randy is a solid 8. I'm sure he would agree. Jim says, no, unfortunately, Lisa doesn't know me. I'm a fan of hers. So there you go. But he says hello nevertheless.
Hello.
Yeah. You know, we talk about Randy being such a great color commentator. You were a color commentator for a little while. And I wanted to know about that. Yesterday, I was watching Beef and Barnsey, and I happened to have the chance to float a question about, you know, being a color commentator because Chris did it as well. And I asked him the toughest parts of that gig, and he said there were two things: having to get your answer into 7 or 8 second bites in the windows that make sense, and keeping it to a level that's understandable, and also having somebody in your ear talking about what's coming up next, what the next idea is. Maybe the other analyst. He said there could be anything going on in your ear, and you have to kind of ignore that while you're making your point. Do you remember those kinds of things being, you know, learning experiences for you, or challenges that you had to overcome when you did that?
All of them. Yes, all of them. I was, being that I was the color commentator, not the lead, you know, like Jen Schmidt was our lead on that. She got most of the talk from the truck.
Okay.
So I got some of it, but, you know, I would hear once in a while, if I was making a point, I would hear maybe coming up on commercial, or you know, go to the Chiron, which is the, maybe, you know, like on the screen, you'll see stats and things like that. The Chiron is the one that puts those on there. And then, you know, they could tell you go to the Chiron. So I would look at that. But, you know, my position, it wasn't all the time. I didn't have that constantly in there. But they will come in and tell you in the middle of a sentence once in a while, you need to do this. So it's kind of multitasking. But you get used to it. You know, you definitely get used to it. It was fun. I was definitely more of a, I loved being behind the scenes. I loved building those stats because I started out as the person that would help that Chiron operator that would put the stats into the show. So if you saw, you know, Alita Sill, uh, Dearborn, Michigan, you know, if you saw that or whatever, you know, then I would tell them what to type. So I really enjoyed that too. And then it went into on camera. But I mean, it was good. It was, you know, I think there are so many people that do it way better than I did. Yeah.
It's got to be tough to, you know, to go from, you know, like you said, a position behind the scenes or even bowling straight into something on air. I have history in local TV, and I started out as a reporter, like most news people do. But, you know, people who are in weather, people who are in sports get thrown right into the anchor position. There we go. Still here, coming back.
Yeah, there you go.
Did you see it that way as, oh my gosh, I'm going from not really understanding this to, you know, the red lights on?
Well, ESPN, you know, fair enough to them. I mean, they asked me, do you want to do it? You know, and I said, sure, you know, let's give it a shot. You know, it wasn't like they said, you're going to do it. Here it is, you know.
Yeah.
And I can say, you know, I didn't have a lot of training. Well, I didn't have much at all, but I just kind of had to try and rely on my years in bowling and experience and things. There are definitely some memorable moments. I can remember when Kathy Doran in Pittsburgh, she was one that very memorable moment. We had a tournament in Sebring where we bowled on conditions that we had, you know, a lot of oil, a medium amount of oil, and hardly any. And I got to demonstrate just how much oil was on the lane through a vial, you know. So,
Okay.
you know, imagine this little bit of oil applied to the whole lane. I got to demonstrate that, and it, you know, it kind of, memories like that were good. It was tough, you know, one thing, because if I didn't get to bowl on a show, then I had to stay, you know, and do all of that, you know, and prep and everything, and then hurry, you know, to get to the next stop a day and a half or so to get ready for pro-ams, we had a lot of pro-ams.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the, I guess, the feeling or the decision to give it all up, to say, okay, touring is not for me. I'm leaving the tour. It's on to the next.
I do. Absolutely. The 2001, I knew halfway through, yeah, that was it. I said, you know, after this would be 22 years, and that was enough. You know, I remember the last tournament, it was in Vegas, and I told some ladies, you know, some competitors there, I said, I'm done. And they went, oh, no, you're not. We'll see you next year, you know. And I said, bye. No, no, you won't. But that was okay. I was completely okay with it.
Sure. So when is the part of the story where you first meet Brent? Because I knew Brent going back to high school. We were teammates. And thankfully, and I'm assuming Brent's still watching, thankfully I still have this little gem from our high school yearbook. And I'm hoping you can see that. Because, okay, good.
I can, yes.
Because I remember, you know, him talking about, you know, your bowling way back then. And that's kind of when it started to strike me that, oh my gosh, his game is really similar to hers. I don't know, have you had a chance to see him bowl? You know, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, Brent, he was coming to our tournaments in the 80s, early 80s, mid 80s, late 80s, everything. When we were anywhere close to the Midwest or anything, Brent was around. I mean, but he wasn't alone. We had tons and tons of fans that would, you know, travel and come up to pro-ams and, you know, watch the whole tournament or whatever. And he was a fan. You know, I think Brent appreciates bowling. You know.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, it doesn't
We're back.
matter. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, ladies bowling, men's bowling, collegiate bowling, which is very exciting. He loves bowling, and it shows in his, you know, management style. But he would come and got to know everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so but I don't know if his game is modeled after mine. I mean, or like mine or whatever. But it is basic and repeatable.
Yeah,
and that's the key.
Sure. Yeah, and that repeatability definitely took a lot of scholarship dollars back in the junior days for him. I, of course, asked him about you, and, you know, as I typically do in this kind of thing, I'm hoping I got all three of my graphics here. But what he told me is there is not enough time in the day to tell you how much she means to me and what she has done to help my career on and off the lanes. He says, I'm the luckiest guy in the world to hang out with my friend and idol, which is awesome. And I wanted to know, I mean, you know, you guys hang out, you're great friends. But like you said, you started out as you're a bowler, he's a fan. What was it like to, you know, kind of make that, you know, that fan athlete relationship into more of a friendship?
Well, I mean, he was coming to our tournaments. He was young. um, a bowling fan, young, but the every year that we went there into that area, he would come up and talk to us, so we got to know him, and it took a long time for just building a relationship. Um, I was very lucky enough to see him at nationals. Last year he was supposed to go, wasn't able to go, and then this year, he said, we're it's happening. We're going. So we got to hang out for a good part of 4 or 5 days. And he came and watched my first game at the nationals, and I believe I had like probably 4 of the first 5 were open, but
Okay.
but I was lucky. Well, I not a good first game, but then I finished with 200s the second and the third. But he had to go meet friends and everything. But we had lunches and got to talk. We got to catch up throughout the years. I got to hear about all of those missing years because I didn't from like 2001 to this year. Not a lot of contact at all. So, got to catch up and hear about life, uh, you know, off the tour, in the center, managing the center, owning the center, So, uh, those days, ones like him, memorable.
Yeah, he is one of one, that's for sure. So obviously you still bowl. What has it been like going from touring player to, through the years to the bowling that you did afterwards to the bowling that you do now?
Very different. Right after I quit bowling on tour, I bowled some tournaments. I still stayed, a little bit of queens and things like that. But I did not put the work into it that I needed to. Because to be competitive, you have to put a lot of work in, and which is obvious by today's tour. And I didn't put the work in, knowledge-wise, as far as equipment,
Huh?
and
We're
equipment.
back.
Yeah, knowledge-wise, as far as equipment and repetition of my game, strength, everything like that. Didn't put what I needed in, so quit for a while. I quit for 6 to 7 years. I didn't throw a ball.
Okay.
Then friends got me back in, and now I bowl, senior tournaments because I am senior. So I bowl senior tournaments. I bowl nationals, obviously, and absolutely love that. We enjoy that so much. And bowl league once a week. My 3 games that I bowl with Delta employees, most of them Delta employees, and I enjoy it. I still practice,
Yeah.
which is I have to because I still do need a little bit of strength in there and repetition. So, but I enjoy it now.
Yeah. I'm throwing up a few pictures here just so you don't have to keep looking at my face. But a couple of questions here. Jim wants to know if you are related to Lisa Wagner.
I am not.
Okay.
As you can tell by how beautiful she is. Absolutely stunning woman, and no, we're not related.
Okay. And Mark London, a previous guest and about to be inducted into the Minnesota USBC Hall of Fame, wants to know when you decided to hang it up, did you know what the next step in your work career was?
I did not. I did not at all. I stayed in bowling for a while. I did some marketing position. I was in marketing for bowling centers, but after that, I really wanted to work with animals, So I walked into a vet clinic one day and said, I see that picture.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I walked into a vet clinic one day and said, you know, do you need help? And the the owner of the clinic brought me into the surgery room where they were getting ready to do an exploratory abdominal surgery. And I went and what they wanted to see if I could handle it, and I absolutely loved it. And they hired me on the spot. So worked there, worked with animals for quite a while.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing that I asked Jeff about was this concept that we talk about a lot now in sports, and that is the concept of the GOAT, the greatest of all time. He told me that the women's GOAT in bowling might be the sport's most difficult debate. He says if you take Marion Ladewig out of the conversation because her era was so different, and if you don't try to factor in the PWBA dark years, he says he thinks he'd vote for Liz based on her majors, but Lisa and Alita Sill and Leanne would all be right there. He says if you tried to factor in the PWBA dark years, he thinks it's an impossible task. There's just too much projecting and guesswork. Is it, I guess, is that something you ever think about? You know, who's the GOAT?
Not at all.
No?
No, not at all. I went out every week and bowled to try and be the GOAT for that week. You know, basically, that's what I did. You'd be surprised at all the, you know, like, I see so many people that have like a giant trophy room and things like that. I don't have that. I
Still there. There we go.
You know, oh, there we go. Yeah, I don't have all that. I just try to go out and be the winner for every week. I think it is a hard thing right there, but you know, I mean, I remember when they voted on Bowler of the Century, and Marion Ladewig was number one. You know, at the turn of 2000. You know, and I think I was, you know, close behind. And my dad said, "No, they got it right. She was number one." And I said, "That's good enough for me." Yep. My dad saw her bowl, and he said, "No, that's correct." Yeah. So yeah. But it's so hard because it's, you know, when you look at bowling throughout the years, everything changes.
Yeah.
You know, technology and lane conditions and everything. You know, so it is a hard question.
Yeah, it is, and unfortunately, because of that, those dark years of the PWBA, we may never know the answer to that. And even if the dark years were light, hey, you know, that's a debate in every sport. So we're probably still searching for that answer. You kind of alluded to it a little before, but you know, how often do you bowl these days? I mean, is it a deal where you're just a league bowler with the occasional tournament? Is it more? And is it tough? Because I've talked to people who have left and came back, and they say, okay, I know what I could do, you know, back then, and it's hard for me because I can't do that now. Is that something that goes through your mind?
It is. That's definitely a fair enough thing to say. Yeah, league-wise, I bowl 3 games a week. Have a good time. I enjoy it. Tournament-wise, maybe, I don't know, 6 tournaments a year, probably, maybe 6, 7. And if I were to be competitive again, I would have to change a whole lot. Definitely a whole lot, physical-wise, because I would need to get a lot stronger. I would, you know, me personally, I would need to be on the lanes probably 4 or 5 7, 4 or 5 of the 7 days a week. It would definitely take me that much. Work-wise, I mean, I work, full-time job, and tough to do that with that.
Yeah, that is.
But I enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the bottom line. As long as you still enjoy it, that's great. And, you've got such a great history to look back on. Brent says, between Izzy the dog and the slushies at that place was a good time. Care to elaborate?
Elaborate? The slushies were 90% alcohol and a little bit of ice. She loaded them up pretty good, I believe. I could not even begin to finish what she gave us. Very, very nice proprietor there. He took me to there. He took us to that business there, casino. It was like a little casino, very friendly place. And they allow pets. They allow dogs and stuff. It made my day.
Yeah.
Absolutely made my day. I didn't even know that they had that, and really made my day. We went there 2 other times.
And this is Reno?
Yes, this is Reno. Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't know they had that there, but he said, hey, you got to come see this.
All right, fair enough. Jim is asking about your toughest opponent. Jim, she did talk about this earlier in the episode. If we still have a connection here, Jim, if you go back on replay, you can hear her talk about Cindy Cover and Carol and why she had a tough time with her. I want to move on to something I call off the sheet, and that's where I ask you to challenge somebody else. Doesn't have to be the greatest bowler in the world, but somebody who's passionate about the sport and has a unique story to tell, to be on a future episode. So, Lisa Wagner, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling with the Fef?
Hey, Brent. Hey, Brent, Mr. Brent Prentice.
All right.
He has an award that he needs to share.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And that is Proprietor of the Year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
All right. Well, Brent has been on once before, but as I told you before we went on air, when major parts of bowling stories happen after those shows, there's definitely a place here, to have him back on for another round. So Brent, come on,
Yeah.
you follow these things. Come on, Brent. Lisa Wagner wants you to be on the show. So we're going to have to do that again. So I'll talk to you offline. We'll hopefully make that happen. Our next show is coming up Thursday, August 10th. 7 p.m. Central, we're going to have Don Moser, the former touring pro from California, on our show. He made a couple shows in the late 90s. Also recently took part in the Super Senior event, the USBC Super Senior. He'll tell us all about that. And the rest of his bowling story. Lisa, did you ever cross paths with Don Moser?
Absolutely did. Yes, years and years ago, but I absolutely did.
Yeah. Anything we need to know ahead of that show about Don that maybe our viewers might be interested to hear?
Well, competitor. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it certainly takes that to achieve the success that he did. Again, Thursday, August 10th, 7 p.m. Central. Lisa, it has been a pleasure. I know we've had to kind of dip in and out a few times, technical hiccups here and there, but I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for coming on, and best of luck to you in your next tournaments and the rest of your the next chapter of your bowling story.
Well, I appreciate that very much. It has been great talking to you, and hello out there, all bowling fans. Hey, keep on going, keep on striking.
There you go. All right. Well, bowling fans, thank you so much for joining us for the show. Always appreciated. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you like what you saw here. If you didn't, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe join us next time. You'll find you'll have a better experience. But have a great week. Be just and fear not. And we will see you again next time.